My little brother woke me up at night and said we need to leave right now, so we did. Lucas shook my shoulder at 2:47 inches the morning. I saw the time on my phone as I grabbed it off the nightstand. His face was pale in the blue glow from the hallway nightlight, and his hands were shaking. We need to go, right now. Don't ask questions. Just get dressed and come with me. I was 19 and home from college for winter break. Lucas was 13 and the most cautious kid I knew. He checked smoke detectors monthly and made emergency evacuation plans for fun. If he was scared, something was seriously wrong. I pulled on jeans and a hoodie while Lucas stood in my doorway looking down the hall toward our parents' bedroom. His backpack was already on, stuffed full of something. He had his phone in one hand and kept checking it like he was waiting for a message. "Where are we going?" I whispered. He put his finger to his lips and motioned for me to follow him. We crept down the stairs, skipping the third step from the bottom because it creaked. Lucas had his shoes already on. Mine were by the front door. The house was completely silent. Our parents' bedroom door was closed. No light showing underneath. Everything looked normal. But Lucas moved like we were escaping a burning building. We walked for 20 minutes before I demanded answers. We were in the parking lot of a closed grocery store, the only light coming from a flickering street lamp. Lucas sat on the curb and pulled out his phone. He wouldn't look at me. I found something in Dad's office. He was trying to delete it, but I saw the notification pop up on his computer when I went to ask him something. I recovered the files before they were gone. What files? Lucas's hands were shaking worse now. Video files. Timestamped for the last 6 months. Security camera footage I didn't know existed. We had security cameras? I asked. Not the normal kind. These were hidden. In our bedrooms. Yours, mine, even the bathroom. All uploading to a private server with Dad's name on the account. My stomach dropped. That doesn't make sense. Why would Dad need cameras in our rooms? Lucas finally looked at me, and his eyes were red like he'd been crying. That's not even the worst part. The files are being sent somewhere. To other accounts I traced back through the IP addresses. 18 different accounts, all accessing the footage regularly, and they're paying for it. I felt dizzy. Paying for what? Paying to watch us. Lucas's voice cracked. Dad's selling access to live feeds of us in our bedrooms, getting dressed, sleeping, everything. I found chat logs where they request specific angles and times. One person asked Dad to move the camera in your room closer to your desk. That was 3 weeks ago. Did he come into your room to fix something? I remembered. Dad said he was adjusting the smoke detector. He was on a ladder for maybe 5 minutes while I was at work. I thought it was weird because the smoke detector worked fine. Lucas pulled up his phone and showed me transaction records. Hundreds of small payments from different accounts, all going to an account in our dad's name. The total was over $40,000 in 6 months. I stared at the screen, not wanting to believe it. Where's Mom in all this? Lucas's face hardened. The master bedroom has cameras too. I checked, but those aren't being shared. Dad's watching her, but keeping that footage private. I think she has no idea any of this exists. We need to call the police, I said, reaching for my phone. Lucas grabbed my wrist. Not yet. If we call from here, Dad might delete everything before they can get a warrant. The files are stored on a server at his office. I found the address in his computer. We need to get there first and copy everything to a secure location, then call the police with proof they can't erase. His office is downtown. That's miles away. And it's locked. Lucas pulled a key card from his pocket. Dad left it in his jeans pocket when he did laundry. I took it 3 days ago when I first found the cameras. I've been planning this since then, waiting for the right time. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I needed to be sure. I needed proof. And Lucas's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I needed to check something else first. Something I found in the chat logs that made me realize we couldn't wait any longer. What did you find? Lucas's next words made my blood run cold, and I finally understood why we were running. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. Lucas's eyes meet mine in the dim parking lot light. His face is drained of all color as he whispers, Dad is planning to sell us. My mind can't process his words. What do you mean, sell us? The chat logs. Lucas's voice trembles as he pulls up more files on his phone. He's been talking with these people. They've been asking for specific things, specific angles, specific. He swallows hard. Activities. I feel sick. The cold night air suddenly isn't enough to keep me from feeling like I'm suffocating. How many people are we talking about? 18 different accounts, Lucas says, scrolling through data on his screen, all paying monthly subscriptions. Some pay extra for special requests. That's how he's made $40,000 in the last 6 months. 40,000? The number hits me like a physical blow. That's blood money. Lucas finishes for me, his young face hardening with a maturity no 13-year-old should have to possess. I trace the server. Everything uploads automatically to his office downtown. The cameras are designed to look like other things. Smoke detectors, wall outlets, air fresheners. I think about the smoke detector in my room. The one Dad adjusted 3 weeks ago. A customer had requested a better angle of my desk, of me. Mom has cameras in her room too, Lucas continues, his voice hollow. But Dad keeps that footage private. It's not being shared with the accounts. Does she know? I ask, desperate for some adult in our lives to not be complicit in this nightmare. Lucas shakes his head. I don't think so, but I can't be sure. That's why we couldn't tell her before leaving. I pace across the empty parking lot trying to think. We need to call the police. Right now. We can't. Not yet. Lucas grabs my arm. Think about it. If we call the police, they'll question Dad. He'll know we found out, and he'll delete everything before they can get a warrant. We need actual evidence they can use. But we have your phone. Screenshots of chat logs aren't enough. We need the actual video files, the payment records, everything on his server. That's the only way to make sure he can't wiggle out of this. Lucas pulls the key card from his pocket again. That's why I took this. We need to get to his office. I stare at the key card, reality sinking in. What did you find in those chat logs, Lucas? What made us have to leave tonight? Lucas's face crumples, and for a moment he looks like the little kid he still is. There's a new buyer, offering a lot of money. Dad agreed to install cameras in the bathrooms tomorrow. And he hesitates, his voice dropping to a whisper. One of the regular customers asked if Dad would consider more interactive content. My stomach lurches. Interactive? Dad said he was thinking about it, that he'd test the waters this weekend. Lucas looks up at me, tears forming in his eyes. He was going to drug us, sis. I found the prescription in his browser history. He already ordered it. I sit down hard on the curb, my legs suddenly unable to support me. Oh my God. The worst part is, I think he was planning to start with you. Lucas's voice cracks. There were messages asking about you specifically, about when you'd be home from college, how long you'd be staying. My mind flashes to all the times Dad hugged me when I got home for break break, telling me how much he missed his little girl, how he insisted on helping me carry my bags upstairs, how he'd knock on my door at night to ask if I needed anything before bed. The night I found all this, I couldn't sleep. Lucas continues. I kept checking Dad's computer remotely, hoping I was wrong. But then yesterday, I saw him accept a $5,000 payment. The message with it said, for Saturday night's special event. That's tomorrow, I whisper. Yeah, Lucas nods, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. That's why we had to leave tonight. We couldn't wait any longer. I pull out my phone, checking the time. It's just past 3:30 a.m. How do we get downtown? We don't have a car. The night bus runs until 4. There's a stop 3 blocks from here. Lucas has clearly thought this through. It'll take us within walking distance of Dad's office building. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Okay, let's go. As we walk toward the bus stop, Lucas keeps checking his phone. I've been monitoring the house cameras through Dad's system. He hasn't realized we're gone yet. You can access the cameras? Once I found them, I created a backdoor into his network. I can see what he sees. Lucas's voice has a hint of pride despite everything. That's how I know which accounts are accessing the feeds and when. You're pretty amazing, you know that? I put my arm around his shoulders. He looks up at me with tired eyes. I just wish I'd found it sooner, before he started selling footage of us. We reach the bus stop just as the night bus pulls up, its headlights cutting through the darkness. As we climb aboard, I realize we're leaving behind everything. Clothes, possessions, the life we thought we had. But none of that matters now. What matters is getting to that office, securing the evidence, and making sure our father never hurts anyone again. One more thing, Lucas says quietly as we take seats at the back of the nearly empty bus. In the chat logs, Dad mentioned other parents, other families. I think he's part of some kind of network. I close my eyes, the horror of it all threatening to overwhelm me. Then we're not just saving ourselves. Lucas nods, his young face set with determination beyond his years. We're saving others by stopping at 9. The midnight bus downtown is practically empty, except for a homeless man sleeping across the back row and a nurse in scrubs heading home from her shift. Lucas sits pressed against me, his small frame vibrating with tension as he clutches his backpack. Every few minutes, he pulls out his phone to check something, his face illuminated by the blue glow. Dad's still asleep, he whispers. Mom too. We've got time. I nod, unable to form words. The reality of what we're doing, what we're running from, keeps hitting me in waves. My father has been selling footage of us for 6 months, $40,000, 18 different accounts. The numbers spin in my head like a sick lottery drawing. This is our stop, Lucas says, pulling the cord. The bus hisses to a halt at a corner downtown that looks different at night, all shadows and reflective windows of office buildings. Dad's building stands 12 stories high, its lobby dimly lit with security lights. What if there's a guard? I ask as we approach. There is. Night shift guy named Roy. He does rounds every 30 minutes, but spends most of his time at the desk watching Netflix on his phone. Lucas speaks with such certainty that I'm reminded again how methodical my little brother is. I've been watching the building's security patterns through Dad's access portal. We wait across the street, hiding in the shadow of a closed coffee shop until Lucas spots Roy leaving the front desk for his rounds. Now, he whispers, and we hurry across to the employee entrance. Lucas swipes the keycard against the reader. Nothing happens. Come on, he mutters, trying again. The light stays red. No. What's wrong? My heart pounds against my ribs. Dad must have some secondary authentication. Lucas's fingers fly across his phone screen. Wait, I think I can. The door suddenly swings open from inside, and we freeze like deer in headlights. A janitor with headphones exits, barely glancing at us as he props the door open with his cart to haul out trash bags. Lucas and I exchange looks before slipping inside, the door closing behind us with a soft click. The service hallway is dim, emergency lights casting everything in an eerie green glow. Elevators this way, Lucas whispers. We make it to the elevator bank just as we hear the front lobby door open, Roy returning from his rounds. We press ourselves against the wall around the corner, barely breathing as heavy footsteps approach the desk. Stairs. I mouth to Lucas, pointing to the exit sign. 6 flights up, my lungs burning. We reach Dad's floor. Lucas peeks through the small window in the stairwell door. Clear, he whispers. The hallway is silent, our footsteps muffled by industrial carpet as we count door numbers. 612, 614, 616. Dad's office is 624. At the end of the hall, another swipe of the keycard, and this time the light turns green. Inside, the office is standard corporate desk, computer, filing cabinets, a framed family photo that makes my skin crawl now. Lucas immediately sits at Dad's computer, turning it on. Password protected, he mutters, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I've been trying to crack this remotely for days. What if we can't get in? We will. His young face is set with determination as he types something. Wrong, he mutters. He tries again. Wrong. On the third attempt, the screen changes, and he lets out a breath. We're in. How did you? Mom's birthday plus your student ID number. Dad uses variations of family data for everything. The disgust in Lucas's voice is palpable. He thinks he's clever. The desktop is organized with typical folders, documents, photos, work files. But there's also one labeled simply S that Lucas clicks on immediately. Inside are more folders, each labeled with a room name. Master, L room, K room, bath 1, bath twepending. That's us, I whisper, feeling sick. L room is yours, K room is mine. Lucas nods grimly, clicking on another folder labeled Accounts. A spreadsheet opens, showing usernames, payment amounts, and dates going back 6 months. The total at the bottom, $40,327.50. Look at this, Lucas says, opening a folder labeled Requests. Inside are hundreds of chat logs. He clicks one at random. User 456. Can you get better angle of K's desk? Willing to pay extra. Admin. Will adjust camera this weekend. $200 additional. User 456. Done. Send payment now. Admin. Confirmation received. Will update by Sunday. That was 3 weeks ago, I say, my voice shaking. When he fixed my smoke detector. Lucas nods, opening another file. Look at the dates. He started with just Mom's bedroom. The first payment came in about 7 months ago. Mom's room? But you said that footage wasn't being shared. It wasn't recently, but it looks like that's how he started. Then he got offers for. Lucas's voice trails off as he clicks through more files. For us, he expanded to our rooms after getting payment offers. My stomach churns as Lucas opens another document. This one, a detailed business plan with projections, customer acquisition strategies, and content expansion ideas. He was treating it like a business, I whisper. A actual business. It gets worse, Lucas says, his voice tight. Look at these messages from yesterday. The chat log shows Dad discussing installation plans for tomorrow bathroom cameras with premium pricing structure for the new content. Another message mentions a special event scheduled for Saturday night tomorrow with a $5,000 payment already received. That's when he was planning to drug us, Lucas says, his voice small. He calls it interactive content in these messages. I lean against the desk, suddenly lightheaded. We need to download everything. Now, Lucas pulls a flash drive from his pocket and plugs it in. Already on it. I'm copying everything, the videos, the payment records, the chat logs. As files transfer, I click through more folders, each revelation worse than the last. Dad kept meticulous records of every transaction, every request. Some of the messages mention other providers with their own content. He's part of a network, I say, pointing to a message thread. Look at these names, at least 5 other people selling similar footage. I told you, Lucas says quietly. That's why we have to stop him. It's not just about us anymore. The progress bar on the file transfer crawls slowly across the screen. 43%, 44%. Suddenly, Lucas freezes, his eyes fixed on his phone screen. Someone just entered the building using Dad's keycard. What? That's impossible. We have his card. He must have a backup. Lucas's face goes pale. The silent alarm just triggered too. He knows we're here. The file transfer reads 68% as we hear the elevator ding down the hall. We need more time, I whisper frantically. Hide, Lucas hisses, sliding under the desk with his phone. I'll keep the transfer going. Maybe it's just security. I duck behind a filing cabinet just as footsteps approach the office door. The handle turns slowly and the door swings open. Dad stands in the doorway, his face a mask of cold fury as he flicks on the light. I wondered how long it would take you to figure it out, he says, his voice eerily calm as he steps into the office and closes the door behind him. Though I have to admit I'm impressed you got this far. The file transfer on the computer screen reads 89%. The progress bar crawls to 92% as I watch Dad's face. There's something different in his eyes, not the warmth I've known my whole life, but something cold and calculating. It's like seeing a stranger wearing my father's skin. Dad, I managed to say, my voice barely audible. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? I managed to say, what are you doing here? I think that's my question. He replies, eyes flicking to the computer screen where the file transfer continues. Accessing my private files in the middle of the night, breaking into my office. His gaze hardens. I'm disappointed in you both. Lucas emerges slowly from under the desk, his phone clutched in his hand. I notice he's holding it oddly, angled toward Dad. We know everything, Lucas says, his voice surprisingly steady for a 13-year-old facing this nightmare. The cameras, the videos, the money. Dad's expression doesn't change, but his shoulders tense slightly. You've misunderstood something clearly. Whatever you think you've found. 18 different accounts. I cut in, finding my courage. $40,000. 6 months of selling footage of us in our bedrooms. The file transfer hits 95%. Dad takes a step forward, and I instinctively move to place myself between him and Lucas. You don't understand the complexities of adult life, he says, his tone shifting to something almost reasonable. Sometimes difficult choices have to be made. Choices? Lucas's voice cracks. You put cameras in our rooms. Dad's eyes narrow. Keep your voice down. This is a private family matter. Is that what you told Mom when she found out? I ask, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. Dad freezes, his face tightening. What did you say? We saw the messages, Lucas says. Mom discovered the cameras last month, didn't she? She threatened to leave you. Something dark passes over Dad's face. Your mother doesn't understand what I've built, what I've provided for this family. So you blackmailed her, I say, feeling sick. The chat logs mentioned edited footage. You used to keep her quiet. Dad's mouth twists into something that's almost a smile. I simply showed her the consequences of making hasty decisions. What would happen if certain manipulated videos were to become public? How it would affect her career, her reputation. I feel my stomach lurch. You threatened to release fake videos of Mom if she told anyone. Insurance, Dad corrects, as if we're discussing something as mundane as car payments. She calmed down once she understood the stakes. She's been quite cooperative since then. The file transfer hits 98%. You're disgusting, Lucas spits, and I can see tears forming in his eyes. Dad's face hardens. Watch your mouth, Lucas. You have no idea what you're talking about. He takes another step toward us. Now, I think it's time we went home and discussed this as a family. Delete whatever you've copied, and we'll forget this little adventure ever happened. We're not going anywhere with you, I say, my voice stronger now. Don't be dramatic, Dad sighs, like we're being unreasonable teenagers. What exactly do you think is going to happen? You'll go to the police and tell them what? Everything, Lucas says. The cameras, the videos, the money, the network of other parents you're working with. Dad's expression flickers for just a moment. Surprise, maybe even fear before settling back into cold control. No one will believe you. It would be your word against mine. A respected businessman versus a troubled teenager and his impressionable little brother. We have proof, I say, nodding toward the computer. Dad laughs, but there's no humor in it. And who do you think owns that computer? Those files? That office? Everything you think you've found belongs to me. The file transfer completes with a soft chime. 100%. It doesn't matter, Dad continues, his voice taking on a gentler tone. I'm not angry. I understand you're confused, maybe even scared, but I'm still your father. I still love you both. We can work through this. Lucas's hand tightens around his phone. Is that what you were thinking when you accepted $5,000 to drug us tomorrow night? Dad's face goes completely still. You don't understand the pressure I've been under, the financial strain, your college tuition, he says, looking at me, Lucas's private school, the mortgage. I did what I had to do to maintain our lifestyle. By selling us, I whisper. By utilizing resources available to me. Dad corrects like he's explaining a business strategy. It started small, just some footage of your mother that I kept private, but then the offers started coming in. Substantial offers. Lucas is trembling beside me, but he keeps his phone steady, pointed at Dad. I realize he's been recording this entire conversation. You weren't supposed to find out, Dad says, almost regretfully. None of this was supposed to hurt you. You were never supposed to know, but we do know, I say. And now others will too. Dad's face darkens. I've worked too hard to let you destroy everything now. The connections I've made, the network I've built, you have no idea how valuable it's become. Valuable? Lucas's voice shakes. You were going to drug us, Yes, for interactive content. A necessary evolution of the business model, Dad says, his voice completely detached, like he's discussing inventory or sales figures. The market demands innovation. Higher returns require calculated risks. I feel physically ill hearing him talk about us like products, like commodities to be sold. This man who taught me to ride a bike, who checked for monsters under Lucas's bed, who I thought loved us, he's a stranger. I won't let you hurt him, I say, moving closer to Lucas. Or me, or anyone else. Dad's eyes narrow. You don't have a choice. We're going home now. We'll delete these files, and tomorrow things will go back to normal. You'll see that this is for the best. We're not going anywhere with you, Lucas says, his voice surprisingly steady. Dad takes another step toward us, his hands clenching into fists. You don't get to make that decision. Suddenly, the office door swings open. The security guard Roy stands in the doorway, his hand hovering near the radio on his belt. Everything okay in here, Mr. Thompson? He asks, eyes darting between us. The silent alarm was triggered, and I saw on the cameras that you were having some kind of confrontation. Dad's demeanor changes instantly, his face softening into the concerned father I've known my whole life. Just a family disagreement, Roy. My kids decided to play a prank by breaking into my office. Teenagers, you know? He laughs. The sound's so normal, it's jarring. I've got it under control. Roy hesitates, looking at Lucas and me with uncertainty. You two, okay? Before Dad can answer for us, Lucas steps forward, holding up his phone. No, we're not, and you need to see this. He turns the screen toward Roy, and I can see video playing the last few minutes of our conversation with Dad. Dad lunges for the phone, but I step between them, pushing him back with a strength I didn't know I had. Don't touch him. Roy moves quickly, placing himself between Dad and us. What's going on here? Look at the computer, Lucas says, pointing to the screen where the file explorer is still open, showing folders labeled with our names and rooms. He's been recording us, selling videos of us online. Dad's face contorts with rage. They're lying. They're confused, troubled. Play the recording. I tell Roy, listen to what he just admitted to us. Roy takes Lucas's phone cautiously, and we all fall silent as Dad's voice fills the room. A necessary evolution of the business model. The market demands innovation. Higher returns require calculated risks. The color drains from Dad's face as his own words condemn him. Roy's expression hardens as he continues listening, his hand now firmly on his radio. Sir, Roy says finally, his voice tight, I think you need to step back and keep your hands where I can see them. Dad looks at us, and for the first time, I see real fear in his eyes. Not concern for us, but fear for himself. This is a misunderstanding, he says, his voice no longer confident. They've manipulated that recording. They're trying to hurt me. The computer, Lucas says again. Look at the files. Look at the payment records. Roy keeps his eyes on Dad but speaks into his radio. I need police assistance at Westbrook Tower, office 624. Possible criminal activity involving minors. As we hear sirens in the distance, I realize this is really happening. Our lives as we knew them are over, but maybe something better will take their place. Something built on truth instead of secrets and exploitation. Dad stares at me, his eyes cold with betrayal. You've destroyed this family, he says quietly. No, I reply, putting my arm around Lucas's shoulders. You did that 6 months ago when you decided to sell us. They keep us in separate interview rooms at the police station for what feels like eternity. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, making my headache worse as I repeat our story for the third time to a detective with tired eyes and a voice recorder. I've been here for 4 hours already, answering the same questions in different ways while they try to determine if I'm telling the truth. And you had no knowledge of the cameras before your brother discovered them? The detective asks again. No, I say, my voice hoarse from talking. Lucas found everything 3 days ago. He took Dad's keycard and monitored the system remotely before telling me. I'm shivering despite the warmth of the room. They gave me a scratchy police department blanket hours ago, but it does little to stop the cold that seems to come from inside me. Every time I close my eyes, I see Dad's face in that office doorway, that look of cold calculation replacing the father I thought I knew. The door opens, and a female officer leans in. She's here, she says quietly to the detective. My heart pounds. My mom? The detective nods, gathering his notes. We'll take a break. There's water and vending machine snacks in the hall if you need anything. They lead me to a small conference room where Lucas is already waiting, his eyes red-rimmed from crying. When he sees me, he launches himself into my arms, and I hold him tight, feeling his small frame trembling against mine. You okay? I whisper into his hair. He nods against my shoulder. They believed us. They found everything on the flash drive. The door opens again, and Mom stands there, flanked by 2 officers. Her face is almost unrecognizable, swollen from crying, makeup streaked down her cheeks, her normally perfect hair disheveled. Our eyes meet, and something inside her seems to crumble. My babies, she chokes out, rushing toward us. My babies. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know until... She collapses to her knees in front of us, reaching for our hands. Lucas flinches away from her touch, and I feel torn between comforting him and her. You knew for a month, Lucas says, his voice small but accusing. The chat logs showed you found out. Dad blackmailed you. Mom's face contorts with shame. He showed me videos of me, edited to look like things I never did. He said if I told anyone, he'd release them. That I'd lose my job, my reputation, that they'd take you both away from me. Her words dissolve into sobs. I was trying to find a way out. I was looking for the server, for evidence. I didn't know he was. That he was selling you too. I want to believe her, but the betrayal cuts too deep. Why didn't you at least warn us? Tell us about the cameras? He was watching everything. Every call, every text. He had access to all our phones, our emails. She looks up at me with desperate eyes. I was going to take you both and run next week. I'd been saving cash, making plans. I just needed more time. The detective who interviewed me enters the room, his expression grave. Mrs. Thompson, we need to continue our discussion about your husband's network. Mom wipes her eyes, straightening her shoulders. Yes, of course. Network? I ask. The detective exchanges a look with Mom before addressing us. Your father wasn't working alone. Based on the files you recovered and subsequent search warrants, we've identified at least 7 other households involved in a similar operation. Lucas grabs my hand, squeezing tight. I told you, he whispers. It wasn't just us. Other parents? I ask, feeling sick. Yes, the detective confirms. Your father appears to have been a central figure in coordinating distribution and payments. The investigation is ongoing, but what you two did tonight, you've potentially saved many other children from continued exploitation. The way weight of it all crashes down on me. Not just our nightmare, but others too. Families shattered, children violated, all for money. 6 months later, I sit in the back of a courtroom as the judge sentences Dad to 15 years in federal prison. The trial was mercifully quick, the evidence so overwhelming that even Dad's expensive lawyer couldn't spin it away. He pleaded guilty to reduce his sentence, avoiding the additional charges that would have come from a full trial. I haven't spoken to him since that night in his office. He sent letters that I never opened, made phone calls I never accepted. The man who raised me is a stranger now, a hollow space where my father used to be. Mom sits beside me, clutching a tissue. She's different now, quieter, more careful with her words. The therapy helps, she says, but the guilt eats at her constantly. She started a support group for families affected by similar crimes, channeling her shame into something constructive. The defendant has shown a calculated pattern of exploitation of those most vulnerable, his own children, the judge says, her voice stern. This court cannot overlook the profound breach of trust and the lasting trauma inflicted upon the victims. Lucas isn't here today. At 13, he's already seen too much, experienced too much. He's with his therapist instead, working through the nightmares that still wake him screaming 3 nights a week. I deferred college for a year. How could I focus on classes when everything in our lives had imploded? Instead, I attend therapy twice weekly and accompany Lucas to his sessions when he asks me to. The therapists say we're making progress, but some days it doesn't feel that way. We sold the house, couldn't bear to live there knowing what had happened within those walls. Mom donated most of the proceeds to organizations that help child exploitation victims, keeping just enough to secure a small apartment and pay for our therapy. Lucas has found purpose in his pain, channeling his technical skills into cybersecurity advocacy. At 13, he's already spoken at 2 schools about online safety and the warning signs of exploitation. When he talks about what happened to us, he uses clinical terms, distancing himself from the personal horror of it all. I recognize the coping mechanism because I do the same thing. You saved me, I tell him one night as we sit on the balcony of our new apartment, looking at stars barely visible through the city lights. He shakes his head. I should have found it sooner. The first camera went up 6 months before I discovered it. You were 12, Lucas. You shouldn't have had to find it at all. He's quiet for a long moment. Do you think the other kids are okay? The ones from Dad's network? I wish I could lie to him, tell him everyone's healing just fine, but we promised each other no more secrets. Some are, some aren't. Their journeys are different from ours. But we stopped it, he says, more to himself than to me. It could have been worse. 1 year after that night at Dad's office, we sit in another government building, this time to testify at a congressional hearing about online exploitation. Dad's network turned out to be larger than anyone initially thought. 18 accounts was just the beginning. The investigation uncovered dozens of families across 5 states, all connected through an elaborate system of servers and payment processing. Lucas adjusts his tie nervously as we wait to be called. At 14, he looks older than his years, the innocence of childhood scraped away too soon. Are you sure you want to do this? Mom asks him. The written statement would be enough. I need to, he says simply. For the others. When it's our turn, we walk to the table together, side by side. The microphones and cameras are intimidating, but Lucas speaks with a clarity and conviction that makes my chest ache with pride and sorrow. I was 13 when I discovered my father was selling footage of my sister and me to 18 different accounts, he begins, his voice steady. He had earned $40,000 over 6 months by violating our privacy and safety in the most fundamental way possible. As he continues his testimony, I watch the faces of the committee members, their shock, their disgust, their sympathy. When it's my turn to speak, I talk about trust and betrayal, about the long road to healing, about the other victims still struggling to rebuild their lives. Afterward, as we're leaving the building, Lucas stops on the steps and looks up at the sky. 9, he says quietly. What? 9 children were saved immediately because of what we did that night. 9 kids who won't have to go through what we did. He turns to me, his eyes clear and determined. That's what I hold on to on the bad days. We saved others by stopping at 9. I put my arm around his shoulders, feeling the weight of what we've lost and what we've gained. The road ahead is long and uncertain, but we're walking it together, step by step, day by day. We did, I tell him, and we'll keep saving more by speaking out. He nods, straightening his shoulders. No more secrets, he says, echoing the promise we made to each other in the darkness of that first night. No more secrets, I agree, as we walk down the steps and into whatever comes next.